Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Ring Fit Adventure. This casual review is a long time in the making. I have been playing this game for about 3 months now, and I was debating whether I should record a casual review just when I got the general gist of the game or when I actually rolled the credits of the game. And normally for casual reviews I do try to roll the credits because I do think that gives a more effective review when I am able to attest what the whole game experience is like. And I'm glad I did it for this one, but just it's not like a hard rule or anything. I don't necessarily have to finish a game before I record the casual review, but I toughed it out and I played this game for 80 something days. I only missed about 2 or 3 days of no exercise just due to certain time constraints, but I try to actively play this game at least once a day because Ring Fit Adventure is an RPG and an exercise game. So Nintendo's been trying to do these exercise games for a long time now. Some with success, some others not so much, but ever since like the Wii Day is the first time I can really remember them trying to actively get their gamers to be exercising, because the whole stigma about video games is you're not doing anything productive, you're just sitting on your butt and you're staring at a screen. So I think like Wii Fit Adventure was a big one with the balance board, and I'm sure there's a lot of other ones, but that's the one that really sticks out in my mind aside from Ring Fit Adventure. Ring Fit Adventure comes with a ring called a Ring Con, and it's essentially just like a Pilates ring. You slide in one of your Joy-Cons into it, and you can either push it or pull it with some resistance. You also have a leg strap that you slide the other Joy-Con in, and you strap it pretty high up on your leg. I found that when I put this leg strap closer to my knee, it would start to constrain and hurt my leg. So yeah, I had to put it pretty far up in order for it to feel comfortable for me at least. You also want to make sure that you have a nice big open area to play this game. So it's not something that I could necessarily play in my bedroom because there's just not enough room there, because you will have to be doing planks and mountain climbing and stretches as far as your limbs can take you. So if you don't have a big open area, this game might not be for you. Also, if you are worried about making loud noises, if you live in an apartment or something like that, there is a setting to, I think it's called like quiet mode or something like that, and I think it makes it so it doesn't require you to like run in place or do any loud stomps if you're worried about making a loud noise. Originally, I did want to show what a gaming session looked like in the real world with me exercising, until I realized nobody probably wants to see a grown man sweating and running in place while he exercises to a video game. So I just recorded some footage from my game sessions on the Switch. The story is fairly simplistic, and I think if the story was more complex, then I would have been a little more invested, especially by the late game after 80 something days. I was pretty bored of the whole story aspect, but basically it works like this. At the beginning, your avatar accidentally unleashes a giant buff dragon named Drago from his ring prison. Turns out Ring is also a sentient being, and Ring is like replicating the actual physical ring that comes bundled with the game. And he's basically like your sidekick. He's the one who tells you what's going on, gives you tips. He's just your buddy, as your avatar that you play as is entirely silent. So the only voice acting that is in this game is through Ring. Now Ring has 2 different voices, a man voice and a woman voice. I decided to go with the man voice as the woman voice was really loud and shrill in my opinion, very cartoony. I didn't really like it, so I stuck with the man voice for the Ring. I just think it's kind of weird that Drago, the main antagonist, isn't voice acted at all. His text is just represented from grunt noises and deep rumblings. Now you do talk to other NPCs just through text dialogue, but it's not actually voice acted. They just make noises like, oh, ah. So yeah, basically the plot is we need to go hunt down Drago before he spreads his evil influence and he goes and works out and gets too strong to overpower the world or something like that. So you have to go chase down Drago. This game is divided up in 23 different worlds, and each world consists consist of kind of like an overview, like a basic 2D Mario game where you just choose what level you want to go to, and then when you enter it, you enter in the actual level. So there's not like any complex navigation system here. There is a town usually in every world, and a town allows you to buy gear from the shopkeep or collect side quests, and side quests are very simple. It's like, hey, go do this challenge without taking this many steps, or go get a certain amount of points at this level. So simplistic, but they do provide little awards such as some smoothies and coins, sometimes some gear. And I did 100% complete this game with all of the side quests being done, something that I'm actually a little proud of, because it did take a lot of time and effort, these side quests. Sometimes it would take 1 or 2 additional exercising days just to do all of these side quests. Some were kind of annoying actually, but we'll get into that a little later. Once you finally do reach Drago at the end of the world, you face off. He's just like this big boss. Sometimes he has some little minions helping him, other times he's just by himself. You take him down and he's just like, oh, guess I gotta go train some more, and then he flies away and goes to the next world. So this game got quite repetitive, especially about a third of the way into the game. I started realizing that these levels and the dialogue and all of the side quests started becoming quite repetitive. I would notice that the tracks that I'm running through, I've played through before, and that's when the game started slowly declining from being a game and the exercise is just a nice bonus to mainly being an exercise, and the dialogue and the gamification of it becomes more on the backseat. So how does this game actually work? Well, the main levels of this game consist of a track. Think of it kind of like an auto runner, except you're doing the running. You're running in place and your character runs, and depending on how fast you're running in place is how fast your characters move. Along the way, you can manipulate the ring to either vacuum up by pulling the ring, so you can vacuum up coins or smoothie ingredients, or you can blow bursts of air by squeezing the Joy-Con forward, and this allows you to destroy boxes that are on the sidelines or things like that. Now, there are other abilities that you do unlock over time, like the ability to go on a raft or fly or do a double jump. So if you point the ring down at the ground and you squeeze the ring, then you'll do a jump, or you can hold it and you'll do a little hover. So there are things that you can manipulate as you're auto running. You're mostly just trying to collect resources in order to help your game in the future. As you're running across this level, occasionally you'll run into bad guys, these cute little critters that sometimes look like weights or sometimes just weird enemies. And the combat is turn-based, so you attack me, I attack you, and so on until one of us is dead. Your moves are consisted by different exercises, so this is where you're doing things like squats, or you're doing leg lifts, or planking. And your abilities do the attacks. So you're doing a certain amount of reps, and every time you're doing one of those reps, it attacks the enemy. These attacks have varying degrees of effects. Like some attacks only hit one enemy, other attacks hit 5 enemies at once. Obviously, the ones that attack one enemy are going to be a lot stronger than the ones that hit 5 enemies. But if you're going against 5 enemies at once, those area of effect abilities would do a lot more in your favor. Now, each ability has a certain amount of strength attached to it. So you are motivated to choose your strongest abilities, even though you may not exactly be excited about that certain exercise. Now, you totally can just stick with the exercises that you do like, but these moves become outdated because the attack power on them will eventually be so low that you'll be forced to upgrade your abilities unless you want to do 1,000 reps to finally take down an enemy. Each of these abilities has a color assigned to them as well. So abilities that work out your arms are going to be red, legs are going to be blue, your core is going to be yellow, and then yoga moves are going to be green. You'll also notice that the enemies usually have a color associated to them. So some enemies will be red, and so on and so forth. And you want to match your ability color with the color of the enemy because it will do bonus damage. So that kind of incentivizes you to vary your exercises so you're not just doing the squats all the time, or you're not just doing planking all the time. Now, by the end of the game, pretty much every enemy that you face off against is going to be black, and at that point, it doesn't matter. Just know they have no weaknesses, so choose whatever is your strongest ability. And that's just one of the many reasons why by late game, this felt a lot more like an exercise routine than it did a game. There are some basic stats like a regular RPG. You have your defense stat, you have your attack stat, and you have your hit points. So whenever an enemy hits you, that's affected by your hit points and defense, and then your attack is going to do more when your attack stat is up. As you defeat enemies, you will level up, which will give you more defense, more attack, occasionally another heart, and when you're about 20% in the game, maybe 30% of the game, they do introduce skill trees. So every time you level up, you get a skill point, and you can choose where you want to allocate those skill points, whether you are unlocking new strong abilities or upgrading your stats. Sometimes it makes it so you can do a second attack, just a chance of that happening. And the skill tree was nice for a decent chunk of the game. It really incentivized me to keep going, but I did hit that point about 80% into the game where all of the abilities on the skill tree were weaker than the abilities that I was unlocking naturally by leveling up, and I acquired all the skills that I wanted to, like all the extra hearts and all the extra turn chances. I wish that the skill tree was a little more in-depth and exciting. I'm not sure how they would go about that, but because I understand that they're trying to go for more of like an intro-level RPG experience for maybe some more of the non-gamers who just want to exercise. But the skill tree did get pretty boring about 80% of the game. Not to mention the requirements, the experience requirements to level up did get higher and higher as you leveled up. And so it's just had that like honeymoon phase of the game where I'm leveling up all the time at the beginning of the game. I'm getting all these exciting skill points. I'm doing the right moves to do bonus abilities to the enemy. So I'm really thinking hard on the combat compared to the late game where it takes forever to level up and all the enemies are black. So it's just like, just do the same strong attack over and over again. And the skill tree isn't rewarding anymore. So you do get burnt out. I would be curious to hear the percentage of people who have beaten this game compared to the percentage of people who drop this game eventually, because it does get tedious, especially because you're just replaying the same levels over and over and the same fighting against the same enemies. Now, to break up the sameness of the running of the tracks, they do have these little mini games available, and these were fun little distractions, especially early on into the gameplay experience. Things like you're blasting all these barrels and you're trying to get a high score, or there's one where you're like riding a little tricycle and you have to put the ring between your legs and you squeeze your legs in order to make your little bicycle jump up in the air. There's another one where you have to like use a fan to bounce back boomerangs at the robots. And while these were fun, these also got quite repetitive by the end of the game because there's only about 10 different mini games and they just increase the difficulty as you go along. And some of these mini games can actually be quite frustrating, especially if you have a side quest associated with them. And some of these side quests can be quite gimmicky, and not a lot of them burn a lot of calories, which was my main concern near the end of this game, where I'm just trying to get my exercise in. Some of these mini games, you can turn on your calorie ticker and it like shows you how many calories you're burning. Some of these games burn calories very slowly, but I have to keep replaying them over and over again because of the quirkiness of the game, and I can't meet the requirements of the side quests. And it eventually just felt like I was wasting time with these side quests compared to the running tracks, where I would burn just so many more calories. I mentioned smoothies and gear. Smoothies are basically like potions in this game, and you do have the ability to acquire them through side quests, but you can also blend your own smoothies if you have the associated ingredients. Some of these smoothies are really good, like they give you an extra turn in combat. Some of them double your XP, which if you time that right with a really long battle, you'll get a ton of experience points. Others just heal you. By about 50% in the game, I felt like I was never in any danger of dying, so I never really used that. Others power up your certain abilities, like drink this smoothie and it will increase all of your blue skills. So by the end of the game, I didn't really care much about the smoothies, but they were beneficial up until about that 70-80% mark. There's also gear, and this gear affects your stats, like your defense and your attack. If you're wearing all 3 of the same set, then they will provide you a bonus, like it makes running easier, or it boosts your arm attacks, or something like that. I was over-leveled by the end of the game. They do have, at each level, before you go in, a recommended level. So, you know, by the end of the game, it said, hey, the recommended level for this course may be like 180, and I think by the time I finished this game, I was about 230. I never really felt over-leveled, though, and while you are playing the game, every time you enter, not every time, every maybe like 3 or 4 times that you start a game session, it will ask you like, hey, do you like this difficulty? Do you want to increase it? Is it too hard? Do you want to lower it? And your difficulty level basically influences like how many reps you have to do during an attack, or how long you have to hold like a strenuous position. And by the end of the game, I was up to a difficulty of 20. I think the max is 30. In all honesty, I probably could have slowly ramped up the difficulty up to level 30, but I got so bored doing the same reps over and over again that by the time I moved it up to the difficulty 30, I feel like I would get through maybe like a couple battles, that then I would have been like 30 minutes into the game session. So I kept it at level 20, and even then I was tempted to decrease the difficulty just to get through the game a little bit faster, because I wouldn't have to do as many reps. At the end of each course, they do have a little heart monitor thing using the IR sensor on the Joy-Con, and how it works is you put your thumb lightly over the IR sensor, and it's supposed to detect your heart rate to tell you whether this was like a good exercise or maybe like a lighter exercise, to kind of help you decide where you want your difficulty to be. This works about 50% of the time, and when it doesn't work, it says, hey, something didn't work, try it again. And by the end of the game, I'm just like, whatever, I'm just gonna skip the heart measuring exercise. Like, I don't care how much of a good workout I got. But at the beginning of the game, during the honeymoon phase, I'm like, ooh, was this a good workout? Did I burn a lot of calories? What's my heart rate at? And I can't tell you like how accurate it is. Sometimes I would feel like sweating and I'm panting, and it says, oh, this is a light exercise, and other times it was the reverse. And so I kind of lost my patience for the heart rate monitor. The ending is quite abrupt. I beat this game the same night that I'm doing this recording, and the ending is quite abrupt. I don't want to spoil it, but it's basically just like, okay, we're done, and then it goes on to finish up the game and roll the credits. And so there's not like much finish, which I'm kind of bummed out about, because I feel like with all my hard work, I deserve a lot of more narrative than I did get. It tells you your stats by the end of the game, kind of like if you were doing like a Metroid game. It tells you like how quickly you beat the game. So these were my stats by the end of the game. I did 27 hours and 12 minutes of exercising, not gameplay exercising, because there is time when you're just like navigating the storefront, or you're talking to some NPCs to get a side quest or something like that. So 27 hours, 12 minutes of exercising. I burned 7,743 calories, which is a really disappointing number, but that's basically how exercising works. It's like you feel like you do so much work and you're sweating and like you've been working out for an hour and you feel really proud of yourself, and then like you look at how many calories you burned and it's like, you burned 80 calories, woohoo! And it's just like, cool, that's like one hard-boiled egg and maybe some hot sauce. So I don't know. It's like maybe looking at the calories you burn isn't supposed to be the motivation. Maybe you should just be paying attention to how you feel after a good workout. I really wish that I did like a before and after picture of my body before and after I played through this game. I don't feel very different, and I don't think I look very different. I'm certainly not like super buff or anything. My wife says I have some glutes now. Maybe that's too much information, but so there might be some progress being done after you play through this game, but you're definitely not going to get super buff if you play through this game. If you want to get super buff, maybe you need to hit the real gym. Still, I guess this is 7,743 calories that I would not have burned if I spent that time playing a different video game. I did 21,091 ring presses, and I ran 61 miles. So those are some pretty good stats. I guess all that stuff is stuff that I would not have done otherwise. This game is definitely more of an exercise routine than a game, especially when you hit that 1/3, maybe like 20 days of exercising and you start seeing the repetitiveness of it. It's an exercise. It doesn't succeed that mission in being both a video game and an exercise routine, because the funness of the game starts to slowly decline. If you don't want to be done once you roll the credits and you beat the game, it does provide several options. There's a custom mode that I didn't play around with too much, but basically like you can make your own little exercise routine or battles and things like that. There's also a new game plus, which I did not start, but I believe, if I'm to understand correctly, you keep all your abilities, you just start the game over again with stronger enemies. For me personally, I feel like I can get a lot more done exercise-wise if I was just making my own exercise routine, because if I'm not playing Ring Fit Adventure for the game, but for the exercise, I can do that much more efficiently and a lot quicker than it would take me to exercise with the Ring Fit Adventure. So I think I may just make my own little daily exercise routine. I was thinking maybe like I'd go for a run around the block, I'd do some kind of arm workout like push-ups, and then some kind of core workout like sit-ups or planks. And that way I get a nice balance of the arms, the core, and the legs, but it would only be about 15 minutes of gameplay compared to playing Ring Fit every day. And it usually took me maybe like 30 minutes in order to feel satisfied with that workout. And I would only burn maybe like 70 or 80 calories every exercise workout routine. I feel like I could totally burn those calories in about half the time with my own exercise routine. There's also a fun little game. This is a side note, but it's kind of like a DDR-esque thing where you're playing along the music of the game, but they also have some songs from The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Super Mario Odyssey, where you're like squeezing the Joy-Con to the beat of the song. It's a fun little distraction, but I probably spent less than an hour playing those side games. But it did convince me that maybe I need to give Just Dance a try, because I did have fun kind of like dancing to the beat. Overall, as far as scores go, I think as a game, this is a 2 out of 5. As an exercise routine, I would probably give it a 4 out of 5. So as this exercise game hybrid, let's just meet right in the middle and call this a 3 out of 5. If you're interested in exercising, but you have no motivation to do so, this might help get you on the track to exercising, but eventually you will probably be motivated to just do your own exercise routine once the game stops becoming fun. Well guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Ring Fit Adventure, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!